It's great to be here because this is a new group and audience for me. When I joined Oracle just 2 years ago, I started out, Mark gave me a call when I was up at Microsoft, Mark Hurd, and he gave me a call and said, hey Laura, I got to figure out what to do with this industry stuff that we do, move it to cloud, build solutions based on use cases that have business impact across 20 industries. And crazily I said, I'm all in. That sounds like fun. So what happened was I then, fast forward, moved a lot of on-prem solutions to the cloud, created new industry solutions, trained the field, I think made a lot of progress, and then I made the mistake of going into his office on a Monday and getting a new job on a Tuesday, and now I find myself 100 days later, didn't have a political 100-day plan, but running the Oracle Marketing Cloud, which is exciting because the cloud is based on just a phenomenal opportunity for us to completely change customer experience through what we do in Marketing Cloud. And when Mark talked about this with me, there's two things that you probably all know about him. He's customer obsessed and he's a data-driven guy. So when he launched the Marketing Cloud and announced this in April of 2012, it really wasn't about what we were going to do to create better email campaigns or throw a little data in there, but it was really to create this phenomenal platform for marketers to understand customers better, to change the experience, to put customers in the center, and to truly obsess about customers. If you look at all the analysts out there, close to 90% of all marketers say we're going to differentiate and companies are going to compete based on knowledge around the customers. So it's really about putting customers in the center. But I wanted to then just let you know that where I came from. Brian referenced that I was an executive at Microsoft. I grew it from a $9.8 to $12 billion business in the public sector business. Before that, I spent a lot of time at Cisco. And my last job as a GM was running something called Connected Energy at Cisco and the smart grid. And if you look at this architecture, and I see my head of product management sitting there, this was the architecture that we built at Cisco to make the grid smarter, to make the grid more modern. And it wasn't just for architecture's sake, but it was for moving data around and getting data smarter around being more efficient with the grid, whether that was around demand response, real-time monitoring, understanding how synchrophasers come in, and if you know what that is, it's kind of a Fitbit for sine waves for the grid. But it was really about to modernize the grid. And it was a lot of fun, and I love building the architecture. I build hardware and software. In fact, that thing to the side of my head is a pull-top router, ruggedized, that's deployed in a lot of utilities across the grid. That my engineers loved it. You could put it in a microwave, it would survive. You could throw it in a swimming pool, and I have pictures of that, and it would live. So we built this. And it was really about a communications infrastructure that could understand what the electric grid is doing across everything, from a substation and generation all the way down to a meter on a building or a house, or to a device that monitors energy. And what I learned about that was a couple things. I mean, this was all about how do you harness data and intelligence to make things smarter. But I also learned that you can build a great architecture. You can buy a lot of companies, and I bought companies while I was at Cisco. But if you didn't make it fit together, and if you didn't integrate it, and if you didn't have powerful use cases, just because you build it doesn't mean they're going to come. So we built it, we bought technologies, we created technologies, and created use cases that were about changing customer experience, whether that was B2B or B2C. When I moved into modern marketing and I saw this architecture, I thought, hey, I can kind of get onto this architecture and figure this out. And good news was there were smart people starting at Oracle that had built an architecture that was all about data, that was all about making data actionable for what marketers want, to put customers in the center, to drive things like intelligent orchestration. This is, I think, Brian, what you were talking about is the future of data at the center, and our DMP is really strategic to what marketers do in the future and that convergence of MarTech and AdTech. So, what a powerful opportunity it was for me to look at an architecture and then not only see that, but also see that, we had filled out, I think, a hugely robust architecture and model fulfilled by a number of acquisitions. And again, it wasn't about, starting with ATG in 2010, it wasn't about just acquiring a bunch of things. it was about putting it together in an architecture that makes sense and to drive the integrations. And then following that to make sure that we understood the issues and use cases and the business drivers to create the Oracle Marketing Cloud, to give marketers the tools that they need to transform customer experience and to create new opportunities for their customers, and quite frankly, to grow their business at a time where data and data insights are everything. So we also built this, and I think the fundamentals were really important around having an open platform so that we could build an ecosystem and integrate a lot of the applications and technologies that are important to our customers so that we could make sure and understand and de-risk that. So we could also create that in a way that was secure, so that we could also understand the power of data and the importance of protecting PII data and respect the rules and regulations globally around the world, which are getting more difficult as you commingle data, first, second, third-party data. It's really important that you get the data governance right. And from my public sector experience, I know that many countries have data officers, many states have them. You see chief data officers popping up even in some of the marketing organizations because it's so critical to understand the kinds of data you're using to architect that, even when you're in an open platform. And ecosystems are powerful, and I think many of you sitting in the room are from companies or maybe looking to sell companies that are part of the ecosystem. I think one of the most powerful things and models that we have is that we have an ecosystem based on our App Cloud partners. We have over 500 of those with over 700 integrations, truly de-risking what marketers do. When you look at the market and there are something ungodly like 4,000 MarTech applications, the first CMO I talked with in the Valley, I think she'd be okay, at Avaya, has over 40 applications. Some companies have over 50. And what they're saying is, hey, help us simplify this. And our architecture and integrations help simplify and streamline. And building an ecosystem is really critical, both from the MarTech side and also from the data side. So having our marketing cloud with our data cloud is really the opportunity that we have to build a robust ecosystem in the ways that marketers are really looking to grow and drive their business and perform all the types of innovations that they want to, and also to scale. Because more and more, I think early days of MarTech, marketers are trying and buying. Things are very organic. Now the meetings that we have, it is marketers and IT in the room. And a lot of the marketers are deep IT experts. They're deep experts in analytics, and I think that's truly evolving as well. And then finally, I think you can build all this stuff, but for us, it's also about having a lot of powerful opportunities around metrics and making data actionable. And at Open World this year, a great customer we have, eHarmony, their head of data, Ninish Ukon, said, hey, you know what? I don't care about any of this stuff as long as I need to make it actionable. I need to create these matches, make it actionable for people who are dating, but we need to make it actionable. So the metrics are important. Brian and I talked a little bit the other day about the CMO dashboard. And it's really cool to see a lot of these dashboards pop up. But it doesn't really matter unless you're looking at a dashboard and sharing a dashboard and leveraging data across your organization to make it actionable. And so we think a lot about how do you take data to drive action, to drive insights, and to drive revenue growth. Because the CMOs of today, they're not just talking to sales. They're integrating a lot more with sales and sales tech. But they're accountable to the CFOs, the CEOs, and the board of directors. And that's what's top of mind when marketers are building their strategy and heads of e-commerce is I'm really transformational and growing the entire company. The entire enterprise is coming back to what marketing is doing. So, the other part of it is I definitely see challenges. And again, I'm 100 days into this journey. But as I look at not only my marketing organization, Oracle's marketing organization, other companies, in the how, not just the what, but how are we going to do this? There are a lot of issues. One of them is, making sure that data is connected. And I think, having data in a way that is not siloed, that's for multi-use and multi-channels, is critical for any way that you build out MarTech or on the ad tech side as well. And then cross-channel. These days, CX is fast, it's unstructured, it's digital, and the ability to implement your strategy and for us to build innovations, they must be cross-channel. And then we have to make sense of that and help marketers gain a strategy on how they build out their model for their campaigns and their insights based on cross-channel devices. This is where things like our ID graph and ID graphs in general are critically important to pull all of this together. And then when you look at all these organizations, transformation of the organizations is changing. It's changing dramatically. You know, many of the people I'm talking about on MarTech are coming from the e-commerce side, and they have marketing, and they're bringing in the sales organization. So I think that organizational transformation, even if you get 1 and 2 right, is critical to evolving this business and to selling more and doing more and creating this innovation. You know, the last study I saw from Forrester said 51% of CMOs basically say that if I don't get my organizational structure right, the people part, it doesn't matter what I do with the technology, the value of that technology and the investments I make are going to be lost if I don't figure out what to do with the people and what is my organizational design. Are we all looking at metrics and KPIs the same way? How do we measure ourselves in terms of the targets that we have and the growth, all the way up again to the CFOs and the CMOs and CEOs and others? So organizational transformation is critical. When a great customer, we have Juniper, who has a lot of our stack and continue them to have more. Juniper was a company that said, hey, what does marketing look like if we put customer in the center a few years ago? They made enormous structural changes of their organization to adopt the technology, to set themselves up for success, to be more effective, to drive results, not in 3 to 6 months, but doing things in days and seeing the insights and being able to pivot and create change along the way as well. I wasn't at Cisco at the time when Juniper was doing this and competing with Cisco, but it looks like they've done a nice job. And so I talked about the marketing roles evolving a little bit, and more, and this kind of builds into our services model too, that the roles are changing of what marketers need. I mean, obviously, we're all so familiar about the need for data scientists, and everyone's trying to invent how do you automate data science. But the fact of the matter remains that we need by 2018 close to 500 million data scientists. There are like 200,000 out there. Many big companies, the company I came from, Microsoft, I mean, companies are building data scientists. They're investing in universities and specialty groups to get data scientists and then to transform those insights into things that are usable to the business owners. So I think this is super important in terms of the role of marketers, not just being the classical type of marketer, but the marketers that are most successful and the ones I'm talking about and that are future forward are the ones that really center their career around all about the data. How do we drive data, use those insights, do things dramatically different from what they've been doing? And I truly believe that marketers and roles around marketing that are data-driven are going to drive the whole transformation, enterprise transformation growth for companies moving forward. So, we talked, heard a little bit about this and talked a little bit about the CMO. And I think as we break down these silos, whether it's with data and cross-channel, and we're bringing in mobile and all these types of things, and we have the ID graph, and so many more other organizations are part of that. Mobile app developers are critical. The CMO and the marketers really become the orchestrator of everything, not just within their organizations, but across the lines of business. When I think about not just Oracle marketing, but the whole CX suite and the customer experience, making changes and getting that right, let's take a retailer, is going to lead to things like understanding, hey, those red sweaters are flying off the shelf. Why? Because we've implemented a retail solution with a ton of data. It's developing into having clienteling and loyalty, knowing that the sweaters are going off the shelf. We'll back end into the supply chain technologies. We'll back end into what kind of people do we need on the floor? What are my human resources needs? So when we think about integration at Oracle, we absolutely, the Marketing Cloud, the Data Cloud, we're part of this whole CX suite that I'll share a little bit more about. But we're also thinking about how does that integrate into everything, into the financials, into the people side. How does this become even more strategic and important to the CFOs who more and more, it's not just the CIOs, but the CFOs and the CEOs want to understand what the whole marketing strategy is, because it can inform, give insights that are predictive and personalized as the CMOs go along this journey. So for us, I think, thinking about what is the smart orchestration, absolutely what Brian shared, the DMP is so key to the convergence of data and how we use it in the future and how we predict and get the insights, not just within the data spheres that we know, but all the external data that we house as well. So I wanted to, this sort of led me to a customer, and I'm going to talk more about this customer and let you guys know who they are at some point very soon. But what we see happening with our customers, this example of a large retail customer, is that they're looking to leverage the DMP to acquire more high-value customers, to upsell, to get customers to come back and buy again, because many retailers, whether it's in the in-store or online, are getting one-time shoppers, but they're looking to merge that data, and DMP is strategic to the retailers to drive this. But it's also, if you go back to the organizational strategy, when you go and implement a DMP, the first thing you need to do is to understand the use cases and the strategies that are needed to make the DMP more useful, to build those out, to make them replicable, to make them fast-paced and changeable as you go, to test those strategies, which is why technologies that we have like Maximize are so important for testing and understanding the value that you bring and pivoting very closely, and then reporting out the metrics and turning those insights into numbers. So I think as we look at where the DMP evolves, for many of our customers from an expert services side, we're building entire playbooks and we're building in ROIs into those case studies so that before they go and launch and base a lot of their work on the DMPs, they have an expectation of their growth and that's achievable and they can replicate that globally for many of our top customers. So, at Oracle, we're proud. We have, I think, a great portfolio of customers and momentum. And I think part of that is that we've been super focused on integration within the Oracle Marketing Cloud. And I really view us selfishly as the tip of the spear for doing lots of things around the customer experience. But with Sales Cloud and our CPQ, with our Commerce Cloud, with social and marketplace, as these become more integrated and secured, and de-risk and open to other partners to be participatory through our APIs and through the cloud marketplace, it really gives our customers new opportunities and insights to make data work together for their business goals, to grow their companies. And I think this is so strategic to what we're doing. And then again, backing that and moving that out all the way into the financials and the people issues. But at the end of the day, it's all about getting the structure right within an organization to harness data as things move forward and as we invest and invent the future for the marketing cloud. So, I started with a smart grid, and that was really Cisco's first instantiation of IoT. And as we look at what's next in terms of innovation that marketers are going to harness, we're seeing a lot on AI and chatbots and AR and VR and all the new innovations. And it's exciting, and marketers are experimenting with these new things. One of my big retailers just said, hey, Laura, I want to talk to you about big data, AI, chatbot. What does that mean? Let's get ahead of it. Let's build a use case. Let's figure out the solutions for doing this. Let's get ahead of that curve. And that's exciting. But what I would say is, even though we know there's going to be billions of these devices and 75 billion by 2020 and 20 trillion, there's huge economic gains here. I think my message is, if you don't have the organizational structure and the adaptability to change and to break down the silos, not just in the technology, but with the people and how they work together with a dashboard and metrics that make sense, marketers are going to try these types of things and be frustrated. And I think getting the foundation right and what we're seeing of marketers being the force to break down silos within their companies and to grow an enterprise is really changing the game for competition. And it will absolutely create the best opportunities for us to grow, for companies like Oracle to acquire new technologies, to make those available for marketers, because they'll have the foundation and the infrastructure to adopt those quickly. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be, some things will be automated, but a lot of the decisions are people-based. And so, I wanted to just share a little bit of that. We're excited about where Oracle is going. I think, most importantly, many of you represent some of the top innovations happening in the MarTech and media and ad tech space even. And I think this is the ecosystem, and these are the conversations that are so critically important to understanding the future to add value to our customers and to their customers as well. So thanks for letting me join you this morning for a few minutes. Okay.